that fair to say?
I appreciate a quick
Sure.
differentiation. Mhm.
Absolutely. So, an allegation means those are the terms that they're saying could have happened, meaning that those are the documents that are in court currently. When we're talking about it, it doesn't mean that this is exactly what happened. So, in the terms that I'm talking about, so the allegations are a misdemeanor breaking and entering charge in North Carolina, and they're stating that this supposedly occurred on October 24th of 2025. Do you remember the evening of October 24th, 2025?
Yes, and so I'd addressed that. I notified them via text message to say that we're going to try to stop in for a visitation, and they were not replying. So I just assumed that that was the only point of contact that I had. So my friend Gabriel and I, he's the one who drove me over there, but they made no note. He was not included in the write up about the warrant for the arrest for these allegations, but he was the one who drove me over, and we took a video, so I have evidence of going in there, and it was a liability on their part because they left the door open. But I assume they did that because they were aware of the visitation, because I'd let them know ahead of time. I have that evidence in a text message stream. I also have the evidence in a video that we took. Gabriel had taken that video, and then I made sure to lock. I couldn't lock the door, but I left everything as it was earlier. Uh,
So, just to be clear, where were you and Gabriel? What was the address that you were trying to go to?
we went to the Fairytale farm, the address in Colfax there. What is it? 8719
Sherfield.
Sherfield Road. Yes.
Okay,
So
that's where you were intending to go. And then, so do you know who Kimberly Dunkel is?
and mom
Who
is
is
the one
that?
who made the agreement. Apparently she's the owner and sole operator, and she has a team of volunteers and employees, and I had to expressly ask to have communication, other points of communication, because she was not willing to establish a dialogue. And that was part of the problem, because if she had communicated and arranged a time frame or attempted to, then I wouldn't have gone over there with Gabriel and tried to be able to visit them. I wasn't even aware that I was, breaking the law. I was just trying to visit them. And I had notified them
Okay,
prior.
so
Yeah.
let me catch up for a second here. So, in 8719, or this address, this Sherfield Road, is this a residence or is this a business or both?
This is the business, and I think, Mom, is this
Nobody lives
also?
there. No.
Yeah, nobody lives there. It's the business address.
Okay, and the reason I asked is I've looked at it on a map and it looks like it's kind of a gravel road that shoots off on two in the corner. It's got two, like a dirt road and then a paved driveway to some of these. And when you say they, what was your purpose for visiting there?
I had needed to be able to have communication. They're my therapy bunnies and my family, and they were refusing any contact or communication. I had asked to be able to at least do a video chat and arrange a visitation, and I didn't get any response. So I just, went a step ahead and went ahead and said, we're gonna come at this time. We'll let you know when we get there, and then we did, and I thought that they left the door open for us, but in
Okay.
fact that was, yeah.
And hold on just a second, Susan. Keep in mind, I don't know much about this. So your purpose of going there was to visit therapy bunnies. Are these bunnies that used to be yours that you used to live with? And how did? What is the reasoning for the therapy bunnies?
They have been my lifeline. I have a dual diagnosis in bipolar schizoaffective. I'm currently on disability, and I've needed support emotionally and physically. And they have been, I rescued four of them, and the other one I got as a baby from another farm. And they have been my emotional support, comfort animal. They've been my therapy, and I have a letter from my doctor, actually, Dr. Kurt from Atrium Health, about why it is I need to have them. And Mom had made this agreement without asking my permission or telling me.
And Susan, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to keep in mind I need to be able to put myself in your shoes. So I know you've got a lot to tell me, and I want to get to it. But so it sounds like you had medically prescribed these therapy bunnies. So the bunnies you were going to visit, these are bunnies that you had rescued, like in the wild. Kind of, what's the circumstances there?
I had gotten one from a farm, and they were bred on a farm, and I was getting them initially as a
Okay.
pet, but then they became my therapy emotional support animals, and I have, like I said, a
How
letter
did
from my doctor.
how did these animals end up at the Sherfield Road
Yeah.
address?
Thank you. I'll let Mom explain that because she was the one who arranged it.
Susan had, we understood that Susan was going to be evicted October 31st.
From
Yeah.
ordered from
And so, because we had the eviction notice and we needed to do
have a
something,
place to board
we didn't
them.
know where Susan was going to go. And so we agreed, the team that she has, the care team, it's really hard to find a place to put rabbits. And the care team actually found
Well,
Fairytale.
they said that's the only option we had.
And so we called, and actually the care team called, and they never responded. So I went over and talked with her, and she said yes, she would really like to help because this was a problem. And then what we did is Susan and I and another friend, we took two of the rabbits, and we went over and had a good
we went
visit.
together, yeah.
So Kimberly was there,
Kimberly was
and we saw where the rabbits were going, and Susan went downstairs where the rabbits are held, and had
we
a
have
lot
videos of that too.
yeah, and then we made another trip, so there were two different trips to get the rabbits over there, and Susan was with us both of those times and talked with Kimberly and asked Kimberly if she couldn't do some video, and I think they did. You did the videos. You did a video chat twice, maybe.
Yeah, but they had initially promised 1 week, and they didn't do that. They only did 3 over the course of 3 months.
Well,
So-
and then there were a lot of emails back and texts, and Susan wanted a lot of different updates with the rabbits.
Well, I was
it
not
was too
requesting
much,
anything
and Kimberly- I think-
unreasonably.
So that, yes, Susan was aware, and we took the rabbits over because she was going to be moving, and we didn't know where, and we wanted the rabbits to be safely boarded. They weren't up for adoption; they were being boarded.
Okay, and if I could, let me jump in here. So, did you ever visit that residence before this date?
Yes, like she mentioned, the 2 times. So we took them over there. They gave us a overview tour, and it was just to drop the 4 of them off, 2 in different. Yeah.
So number 1 trip was to drop them off there, correct?
Yep.
And did you go another time between this incident date and
Yes.
so the October 25th is when they indicate, or October 24th, excuse me, is when they indicated this occurred. Did you visit another time between?
Thank you for asking. I was clarifying. Prior to that, there were 2 visits, and the first one we dropped off the first 2 bunnies, and the second one we dropped off the other 2 bunnies, and then Gabriel and I, as you mentioned, the date that they quoted of October.
And you had different video discussions.
Yes, we have evidence
So 2
also of the
visits and several
videos.
video appointments.
With the
Okay,
visits.
so let me be clear. So let me clarify. So on approximately what was the date that you dropped them off at this residence?
I have it in the calendar. I can look
Yes,
it
we
up.
have that. We have that information. Can we also submit via email the dates and specific information to you, or?
That's fine. Let's just get through. Keep in mind, you've got a year's worth of information that is you're eager to unload on it. I've got to get a basic framework of kind of some things.
Okay.
So I know that you dropped them off. I know that you had communication with her, and then it sounds like you had another visit at a point prior to October 24th. Is that correct?
Yes, they were the 2 visits before the 24th. Mhm.
You can take
Okay,
the phone
very
out of
good.
the
So we
page.
understand that you had a visit. How did that second visit occur?
That second visit was to take the other 2 bunnies over.
hmm Did you all have an agreement about your future visits
You can
or
take
your
it out.
ability to visit during that time?
What was the agreement originally, Mom?
It was an informal agreement. Here you go. Here's the phone. And there was never anything written, but she wanted to help. And the idea was there would be 3 months that we could board them. And then after that, we didn't know what was going to happen with Susan, where she was going to go.
But they also made that agreement without my permission and my consent, so I was told after the fact and forced into this agreement, and it was not even written up in written format, right? And there was no invoice that was issued, it was all,
Okay.
yeah.
Was there ever an agreement that you could go to that address without them being present?
We
No.
they refused to communicate. Basically, this was, it was their role, to be able to respond and coordinate a time, and they were completely blocking me as their mother and owner and treating me like a third party, and everything that was communicated and negotiated was between mom, my legal guardian, and Kimberly, the owner. So.
So Kimberly is when she takes these bunnies, in what capacity is she taking them? Does she work for the county? Does she just happen to be a person that takes care of other animals?
She's a rescuer. Yeah, she has little horses and ducks and chickens.
So the
and
primary,
goats.
yes, exactly. So,
Yeah.
but riding animals, the primary thing would be for boarding and also adopting. I think she rescues them, and then also she puts them up for adoption and fostering care.
So I will tell you this realistically, Susan. It, what in keep in mind, my job and my sole job is to be able to advise you as to the circumstances that we're in and what I foresee could potentially happen in court. Okay. So what I'm hearing, just to start with, I don't think that this is an incredibly serious case. You're not going to go to jail.
Thank
You know,
you. I appreciate that reassurance. I ended up being interrogated and handcuffed and put in jail for several hours, and I was not able to be out until someone, my friend of a friend, had bailed me out. That I had not, produced the $250 for bail, I might have been stuck in there, and I was not emotionally or mentally or physically well. So,
and what the position from a district attorney, that is the person that would prosecute your case.
Okay.
That position is going to be that you were essentially on somebody else's property without their express permission, and that you remained there. So, obviously nobody broke any doors. You just walked into an unlocked door. However, though,
and like I said, we
North
have
Carolina,
evidence of that. We have the video. I have a key witness who drove me over there and took the video and went in there with me, and he was not even written up in the allegations. So.
okay, well, your concern is not anybody else's with you. It's yours and yours alone. So their position is going to be that just because you text somebody does not mean that you can go there unless they've authorized you to be there previously.
Okay. Well, I was not aware of that, so if I had been aware of that, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have done that.
Unfortunately, lack of knowledge of the law is not a legal defense.
Well, it should be, because I did not committing any crime. They were the ones who were jeopardizing their own business, number one, by causing themselves an own liability by leaving the door open and not communicating. Their refusal to communicate was the problem. And I was just simply trying to be able to establish contact with my own bunnies, and this agreement was made without my permission or my consent or my awareness. So I was forced into this, and I've been in emotional turmoil ever since. For 3 months, they were taken out of my possession, and I was forced to not have any contact other than 2 or 3 video chats, and they went against their agreement.
I'm going to have to ask you this. I've got certain things I need to say.
Okay.
Please let me finish these at this point, okay?
All right. Mm-hmm.
So, there could be a million things that you disagree with. It's not going to authorize you to then go into someone's place of business or home without their permission.
Okay.
So the reason I'm telling you this is to say I don't think I would advise you to have a trial in a case like this.
Yeah.
So, let me go. I know you got a lot to say. Let me keep going here. The reason for that is in North Carolina, so if someone's place of business or home is they've not authorized you to go there, it doesn't matter what the reason is. If you have a disagreement, if there's an agreement that you didn't enter, whatever the case is, you can't then just go to their home without their permission for it. What I also am understanding, and I talked to your mom about this some, I understand some of your mental health diagnosis. But the only thing the criminal court is considering worth investigating is whether or not it sounds like you were aware of where you were going and why you were going there for it. Realistically, what we're looking at here is I don't even know if they're going to want to prosecute your case, but the most important thing to note is in the future, you're not going to be allowed to go back there. And very realistically, you're not going to be able to see those animals going forward.
Well, that was the problem, is that they were restricting access to my own. That's not even their property, and they were jeopardizing that by not
So
even
we brought
communicating.
the rabbits back. So she has.
And
all
that
of the
was
rabbits
after
back.
I had to expressly, contact PETA. I had to be able to say, they are not their property, and they never made an agreement that was even legitimate, in
That's
real
fine.
terms.
That's fine. It doesn't matter what the property is.
Mhm.
Bottom line is that you're not going to be allowed to go back there. I don't think that's an issue, is it?
No, no. If they had just been attempted to communicate, we would have a very positive rapport and relationship. I would be giving them a testimonial.
Time out. Time out. I need this to be aware, and I'm not trying to downplay the situation here, Susan.
Okay.
The lack of communication
Uh-huh.
or what it makes no difference. That's not a defense. That is not relevant in the case. That's not going to be something that's going to alter the outcome of this case. This is a criminal charge. This is not a contract case.
Then
This
what
is
do
not
I have in terms of defense then? Because that to me is a foremost primary reason. That was not anything I did wrong.
As your attorney, I'm telling you that is not a valid criminal
Then
defense.
what? Then please clarify what is.
In my opinion, your circumstances is compliance with not having contact with these individuals or going to their home.
Oh, no problem there.
The argument is not saying that, well, they had my property and I wanted to go there and I texted them and I didn't agree to this. That has nothing to do with you being at this residence without their permission to do so, or this business for it. So, and I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of this because I understand it's not something you agreed to. I also understand that it's something that you were worried about the welfare of these animals. I also understand you were trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
None of that legally authorizes you to then go into that place. So that's just because you don't agree with somebody does not mean that you can go.
Okay. Well, I apologize. I was not even aware that was it, and infringing on any laws. If I'd been aware, I wouldn't have done it. So that those are definite factors. And how are we able to just clear this? This should have been cleared months ago. How are we able to encourage them to dismiss this, to not even have to?
That's what I'm trying to communicate with you right now. So if you let me keep communicating here with you on it. Essentially, when we go into a case like this, on the court date, we would communicate to the district attorney, look, I can tell them some about the situation. What they will do then is, on your next court date, when we're there, we will not resolve it on that court date.
Okay.
It is, and they, just to be clear as well, they will not be present there. So this Miss Kimberly Dunkel will not be present.
Mm-hmm.
On the next court date, we will issue a subpoena for the officer involved, and then also for Ms. Dunkel to be present on the next court date.
A subpoena.
On that next court.
Okay. Next court date.
And that court date is likely going to be late February, potentially early March.
Okay. Yeah.
That court date, the intentions of it are to then have Ms. Dunkel to reach an agreement to say, look, this isn't something we don't necessarily need to prosecute with the agreement.
Yeah.
The most likely outcome, in my opinion, is what's called a deferred dismissal, which means that as long as you agree not to go to the residence or to have any contact with Miss Dunkel, they're not going to likely want to prosecute against you on this.
Okay. All right.
So what would be very helpful to me, you had mentioned that there's potentially some videos, some documents, some things that you think may be related to this case.
Yes.
What I would like for you to do is, you now got my email that I sent the Zoom link in. If you'll respond directly to that email with any of the videos or any of the agreements or anything of that nature.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Okay.
What I will do with that, with your permission, I'm going to go through that and determine what I think is necessary to be able to show to the district attorney. So essentially, what I'm showing to the district attorney is going to be say, look, this isn't just somebody walking into somebody random's house. Here's the situation.
Okay, thank you.
The issues that we have. Now, that's important in the negotiation of a dismissal. As far as a trial is concerned, a judge is going to say, I don't care what your disagreement is. That doesn't authorize you the ability to go into that home. Again, you may not go to jail. You wouldn't go to jail, but having a criminal record is a very life-changing event. So my legal opinion is the argument is not arguing whether or not, these people were communicating with you or not. It's more of saying, how do we negotiate essentially a dismissal to say, with the understanding you're not going to have any communication with Miss Dunkel or to go to this residence. So what that means is, might be a period of about 6 months or so you're not allowed to have any contact. What that means is, if you contact Miss Dunkel during that time, or if you go to that residence during that time, you would end up with a conviction of breaking and entering on your record.
Okay.
So there's zero tolerance. And what that also means, if you text them, if you get pictures of them, if you communicate in any way with them, then that would be a violation and would end up in a conviction.
Okay.
So my question to you, Susan, is that something that, I don't want to set you up for failure. Is that something you think is realistic, that for an extended period of months that you would be able to not communicate with Miss Dunkel or to go to that residence or to reach out to her online or any way?
Yeah, I appreciate you explaining it. As long as I'm aware of the specific terms of the agreement, like you said, not have any contact, including text messaging, which I had, and it was all positive communications.
And
but
making
as
comments about the business
yeah, and including
online.
social media and all that. As long as I know that those are the terms of the agreement, I'm more than happy to accommodate whatever we need to do to be able to clear this, whatever time frame.
If they agree to it, there would be essentially a contract called a deferred dismissal.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
what's very important to notice about this, Susan, is if they agree to that, because they don't have to, number one.
Okay.
But if they agree to that, the way this works in criminal court is you give a conditional guilty plea. And before you're thinking, what are you talking about? Let me explain the whole process. That conditional guilty plea is an agreement that says, if you follow the terms of this agreement, your case is dismissed. However, though, for any contract, there has to be a part of it for either side. So that other side is to say, your case gets dismissed. We know that's the first side. The second side is to say, if you violate the terms of this agreement, you agree that there will be a judgment against you for this case. So when we go into court, this is very alarming, but it's very important to listen to the entire part of this. We actually go in and say guilty pursuant to the agreement with the state. And that agreement is your case is dismissed so long as you comply with the terms of the agreement.
So in order to be a deferred dismissal agreement, you have to be able to plead guilty initially and then gets overturned. Is that I'm understanding?
No, that's close, but I'm not trying to be. So it's very important it's a conditional guilty plea, which means is no judgment of guilt is entered against you. What it means is if you violate any of the terms of that agreement, at that point, then a guilty verdict is entered against you.
Okay.
So there's and it's confusing because when you go into court and say the word guilty, you're thinking, why are we doing this? How is this a dismissal? So, for example, let's say if we go into court on March 1st and you enter this deferred dismissal agreement, what that means is if you enter the deferred dismissal agreement, no judgment shows up on your background. What it means, though, is let's say if April 1st you go to that residence, we come back to court, and then at that point, then a judgment is entered against you. So the most likely outcome of this is if everybody is in agreement that there's no potential contact, that there's no issue of you going to this place, then there's not going to be any issue.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, Susan. So on that date, we understand that you recorded it. We understand that you texted her first. Did she see you at the residence, or how did law enforcement get involved with you after that?
Well, apparently, and I'll have Mom be a witness here because I was told after the fact that they had contacted directly.
Cameras.
Through surveillance, yeah. So
Yeah, it
go on
was
and
the
explain.
security system,
Was this?
and the cameras alerted the police.
Okay. And then did they come out that day, or did they come out the following day?
They came out after Susan had left, and they were there, and then Kimberly texted me right away and said, I think she's at the farm, and the police have been called, but the pictures on the camera, she's left, and Kimberly drove out. Nobody lives at the farm, and Kimberly drove out and then met with the police.
But no charges were cleared, and they didn't clarify anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, she said that she was tried to make light of it and explain the situation, but it was filed.
Clarify what you mean by that. You said she tried to make light of the situation. Kimberly
I have
tried
the
to make
text. I have the text, and it was something like, I tried to explain to the officer,
reasoning. Mm-hmm.
yeah, what this was all about.
And Betsy, if I'm hearing you correctly, Susan can ask your mom a couple questions.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So Betsy, just to clarify,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is that Kimberly did not have a strong emphasis on saying, I want to pursue this. She's saying, hey, the police got called out. We don't want to make a big deal of this. Nevertheless, these charges came about. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, the one thing that has been troubling to Kimberly, and that's why we went to get the rabbits, was that Susan was making online comments, apparently a lot of Facebook comments about the farm. Am I right, Susan? And I believe she was contacting the suppliers, because it is it's a volunteer thing, and I believe Susan was contacting the suppliers, and Kimberly felt that her entire business was being threatened.
That was her fault.
She could lose her business and lose her
That was
reputation.
nothing I did wrong. I was sharing.
But I think that's what happened.
Well.
So we went. I got. Kimberly and I were very concerned. I was concerned. I thought, this is not. We need to get the rabbits out of there, and so we brought the rabbits back. So she has them here.
Susan, would you be comfortable removing the comments of anything that you made on Facebook about the farm?
I mean, that's going back through, wading through, and that's, in my opinion, that is, if I need to, if it last resort, that, I'll have to, but otherwise, I just don't find that to be.
Well, and keep in mind, if based off of what you've explained to me, it's more likely than not that you meet the elements by all technical standards of a misdemeanor breaking and entering in North Carolina. In my opinion, this isn't necessary. You don't have to if you don't want to. An initial olive branch to Miss Dunkel would be to say, hey, look, Susan's removed the comments that she's previously indicated. I'm not saying that what you did was invalid or that wasn't necessary, whatever the case is. But, essentially, if you're willing to say, look, I'll remove these, that's a very good initial outreach to them to say, hey, how about we've done this. Will you consider working with us in doing this deferred dismissal? You don't have to do it either.
Okay, it's something to consider then. Yeah, I appreciate you explaining it.
In what I find in most situations like this, somebody like Kimberly is more likely to be cooperative if this just ends the entire situation. If she knows you no longer are going to have contact with her, that you are not going to have any participation with her business, whether you agree with it or not, it's more likely, to your point, you said, how do we make this go away? How do we do this? She has the same interest. Everybody has the same interest here. And if we can provide how we're going to do that on our end, it's much more likely that she'll be agreeable about it on her end as well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you explaining that. I really have every right to be able to, have a refund too. I should have been, first of all, made aware of this agreement. They took my disability check for the month, and that was used to pay for them boarding and the terms of the agreement. This was all set without my consent or permission or knowledge. And then I was forced into this and went through a lot of emotional turmoil. and then being just stressed out in the first place, and then being put through this, interrogated and thrown in jail, and not understanding why. I have been through so much, mentally and physically, was emotional trauma, and so have they. Being separated from their sole provider, their mother, who they have not had any contact with anybody else. They were all of a sudden with strangers. They had no way to verify that they were ethically treating them, and they had no way of even accommodating for reasonable communication, which, in my humble opinion, is wrong on their part, being a business who is taking my disability money without my permission, and then making no attempt to even communicate, and treating me like a third party, but I've been their mother. So.
And Betsy, as far as that is, being taken or not, any thoughts or comments in that regard?
Yes, there was no written contract. She agreed that she was going to take the rabbits for a 3-month while we didn't know where Susan was going to go or what we were going to do with the rabbits. And I, out of my banking, out of my checking, I gave her some money. And it was,
But there was no invoice, right? Or no receipt?
No, there's no invoice, sweetie.
Okay.
And the money did not come out of Susan's funds. I wrote on the bottom of my check that it was for rabbit rescue. It's a rescue farm, and it was a donation.
They have plenty of support.
So,
I think you can find these time a dozen. Hopefully they were well treated during the time, but usually
they were really. They came back.
You had no way to verify, Mom.
Yes,
It seemed as though they were. They did come back alive, but we have no way to verify anything, and they would not supply first names or any volunteers or employee referrals. Where they refused to communicate, and they would not even provide a referral to any of their employees or volunteers. So that to me was suspicious. So, but that's a separate thing.
Okay, they came back brushed, bathed, all of their nails had been trimmed. They were very well taken care
It seems that way.
Yeah.
You can't attest for that, but it did. At least they came back alive.
Yeah.
So, short order of business on your court date. We'll be in there at 9 o'clock that day, and this will be at the Guilford County Courthouse in courtroom 1C, C as in Charlie.
Okay.
Don't panic if you don't see me in there right at 9 o'clock, okay?
Okay.
Once, you're not going to have to speak to anybody without me being present.
Okay.
It's very likely I'll be speaking with the sheriff officer and the district attorney in the back hallway first, and then I'll come speak to you. And then ultimately, we'll begin the conversation about reaching the deferred dismissal. By law, the district attorney cannot enter the deferred dismissal unless and until they reach out to Ms. Dunkel, and then Ms. Dunkel is in agreement with it. So we will not leave on your court date with the understanding of the final agreement. Essentially, what we're going to leave with is putting the ball on the court of the district attorney to say, here's your homework. By the next court date, we need you to speak with Ms. Dunkel and make some decisions about how to proceed with this.
Okay.
So it's a 2-part process. The first court date, again, we'll go in on that date. And again, we'll be out of there very likely, in my opinion, somewhere along, by about 10:30 or so that day. But we'll be
10:30 in the morning, right? No, okay. All right.
Correct. Yeah.
And so potentially you said they might set it out another month or another, depending on.
It has to be a minimum. By law, they're given a minimum of 30 days.
Okay.
So they will issue any subpoenas they issue will be 30 days out minimum.
Okay, 30 minutes. Okay, thank you. All right. And how early do you recommend we arrive?
It's just, if you're there, you don't need to be particularly early. It is in district court, your case is not set for trial that day. If there's nobody, you don't need to be present for docket call. As long as you're in there at 9, you'll be just fine.
Okay,
So,
I appreciate it. See, this has been peace of mind just to know that, because I know how scary it is being in jail, and I was in jeopardy. So just to make sure, that we're trying to prevent this, and also to prevent being evicted, having a criminal record, So I appreciate your defense of this and understanding the full background.
It's important. So a week from tomorrow, of course, that'll be courtroom 1C, so next Friday.
Okay.
And then we'll get you out of there by about 10:30 for it.
Okay.
So on my end, I've got about 3 minutes left for the meeting here for today. Any other questions or anything else you want to discuss before then?
Honey, do you have any other questions?
I can't think of any offhand, but we have his email now.
What?
We have his email address. Thank you.
Okay, I guess.
And hang on, I just wanted to.
Okay.
Do you have any questions, Mom?
Yeah.
Just
All
want to
right.
say hello. This is Mr. Ginger here, buddy. So you're the
Looks very happy.
Yeah. So he saw me handcuffed, so he doesn't want me to be stuck in jail. They need me. I'm their mother.
You won't. You'll be just fine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate
Betsy,
We
you.
thank
appreciate
you. For helping
you.
to organize this and providing the information. If you're able to give me any of those videos, that'd be fantastic.
All
In the
right.
meantime.
Yes.
Anything else? If you want to put together the dates of the visits that you had as well, that'd be beneficial as well.
Okay.
I can-
We'll get to work on it, and I look forward to seeing you all in person on January 30th.
Thank you,
And
sir.
should I send Kimberly's text? Probably that would be helpful, along with the dates.
Absolutely, that'd be
Okay.
If you could screenshot it and send it to me, that'd
Okay.
be fantastic.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. We appreciate
All right.
you. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
How do we
Okay.